handle, Xander, had solved other supposedly impossible challenges. Plus, she'd been confirming her calculations with the rest of the Ultra Platinum trophy hunters, so they knew she had a remote chance of winning. When a chunk of rock broke free from the nearby outcropping, sending a small plume of dust into the air, Alex spied the AOD coming around the bend. She had to bend her neck back to see the head of the final boss. It looked like the statue of a bearded warrior with a horned helmet, wielding an axe-like weapon called the Demon Heart Crescent Blade. Crimson robes flowed around the gargantuan creature. "Time to die," said Alex, stepping into the maze-like canyon where the AOD roamed. When the AOD aggroed on her, a faint red mist formed at the edge of her vision, letting her know the boss was gunning for her. As the AOD neared, Alex counted its paces, waiting until it had passed the broken wall before setting a timer and casting her signature spell, Burning Soul, on it. The damage over time spell would tick off hit points as long as she held aggro, growing moderately throughout the fight but never threatening to kill the boss. It was one of the few spells that didn't scale with her armor rating, an important caveat that meant she could go armorless to kite the boss. But even if she could avoid it for the full 30 minutes, she'd only knock off 5% of the AOD's hit points. With the AOD on her tail, Alex maneuvered through the canyon, following a carefully choreographed path that she'd been practicing for weeks. She discovered the path from watching countless boss attempts from the guilds that frequently streamed. She had to thread a narrow window before staying ahead of the boss and not getting too far ahead and losing aggro, which would reset the encounter. Alex counted off the steps, leaping from outcroppings to gain a little distance when she felt the AOD was getting too close. The constant movement was the reason she couldn't wear armor for the fight. Not that it would have done anything since she didn't have a healer. For her viewers, the fight was probably boring as hell, but for Alex, every moment was heart-pumping excitement. After 10 minutes, she tried not to think about the $5,000 and how her mom might finally understand that she could make a living as a gamer. Her mom really wanted her to get a real job like an accountant or a civil engineer, something that her high mathematical abilities would earn a scholarship to pay for. She would even accept joining the mathemagics at the 100 Halls, but Alex's scores during the last Merlin testing had barely qualified her for the magical university. And her guidance counselor had warned her that she would likely fail the entrance trials with such little magical ability. Distracted by thoughts of her mother's disappointment, Alex stumbled over a rock. Her knees crashed into the dirt, leaving her momentarily vulnerable to the AOD. Alex sensed the final boss swinging the Demon Heart Crescent Blade at her exposed back, and she quickly cast Sprint to speed out of the path of the weapon. The Demon Heart Crescent Blade crashed into the rock where she'd been kneeling a breath before sending shards into her back. The area of effect took off 30% of her health, but Alex didn't care as long as she avoided getting killed. The next 10 minutes, time seemed to slow down. The closer she got to the end of her timer, the sweatier her palms got. The AOD was only at 94% health. Alex kept ahead of the AOD, counting out the steps, focusing on the details so the weight of what she might achieve didn't distract her. When it got down to the final seconds of her timer, Alex made arcane gestures to place a protective enhancement on herself before turning to face the AOD. The timing was critical. If she'd calculated wrong, then her attempt would be a failure. This time, the final boss didn't miss with the Demon Heart Crescent Blade. The weapon came down in an arc longer than a football field before smashing into Alex. "You have died." A massive skull filled her vision. Alex was given one breath before her protective enchantment Bloody Last Stand kicked in, resurrecting her with 10% health. Her bloody avatar stood before the AOD, looking like Carrie after the bucket of blood had been dumped on her. It was one of the more disgusting abilities in the game, but Alex didn't care as long.